I'm so disappointed in President Putin. I thought he would get this thing over with. He should have had that war done in a week. And I said to him, you don't look good. You're 4 years fighting a war that should have taken a week. Are you a paper tiger?
But if we are truly fighting against the entire NATO bloc and still advancing, moving forward, feeling confident, then that means it's a paper tiger. So what does that make NATO itself? Kupiansk-Vostok is progressing quite confidently at a very fast and steady pace. We treat this situation, very calmly and with composure. I don't know in what specific context this was originally said. Perhaps it was said with a touch of irony. Well, there's a certain meaning in that too. So he told his interlocutor quite directly that it was merely a paper tiger. What could possibly follow from such a declaration? Well then, the logical next step would be to go and effectively deal with this perceived paper tiger. A paper tiger. As I said all these years, Russia has not been fighting the armed forces of Ukraine, not fighting Ukraine, but is practically fighting all the NATO countries. If we talk about... Yes, you actually asked what's specifically happening right now on our line of contact. So, let me get back to the tigers now. So, along almost the entire extensive line of contact, our brave troops are truly confidently and very steadily advancing onward. Enormous historical challenges. We're currently at war indeed, right? We produce our own military equipment, and there are a significant number of countries fighting directly against us. Well, all the NATO countries are fighting against us. It's just they themselves aren't even hiding it anymore. And unfortunately, there are instructors involved, right? And they are actually directly participating in combat operations, really, from various Western countries. That's precisely why, yes, a dedicated center was specifically created in Europe, which essentially oversees and monitors everything that the Ukrainian armed forces do in great detail. It provides information, supplies intelligence, transmits reconnaissance data from space, delivers weapons, and trains them. And I repeat, the instructors are involved not only in training, but also in decision-making. And even in carrying out those decisions, thanks to our historical experience, we are better prepared for complex. Of course, this is indeed a very serious challenge for us, but the Russian army, the state, and the entire Russian defense industry have very quickly and effectively adapted to this significant challenge. I say this without any exaggeration whatsoever, and this is certainly not hyperbole, not an overstatement in any way. This is absolutely not boasting. I firmly believe that today the Russian army is the most exceptionally combat-ready, both in terms of the comprehensive training of its dedicated personnel and its advanced technical capabilities, which are truly impressive. In their ability to use and modernize them and to deliver new types of weaponry to the front line. Somewhere around 44,700 people. As they say, a ship will truly sail as you name it. Well, there's probably quite some truth to that indeed. But it does sound a bit aggressive. The Ministry of War, for us, it's the Ministry of Defense. That has always been our position, and it remains so, and it will continue to be so. We have no aggressive intentions toward third countries. We have a Ministry of Defense, and the purpose of the Ministry of Defense is to ensure the security of the Russian state and the peoples of the Russian Federation. It has had a very turbulent and difficult history, the very formation of Russian statehood.
Well, he's teasing, saying it's a paper tiger.
A paper tiger. As I said all these years, Russia has not been fighting the armed forces of Ukraine, not fighting Ukraine, but is practically fighting all the NATO countries. If we talk about... Yes, you actually asked what's specifically happening right now on our line of contact. So, let me get back to the tigers now. So, along almost the entire extensive line of contact, our brave troops are truly confidently and very steadily advancing onward. Enormous historical challenges. A paper tiger. As I said all these years, Russia has not been fighting the armed forces of Ukraine, not Ukraine itself, but is practically fighting against all the NATO countries. I haven't looked that closely yet, but The comprehensive proposal suggests creating an international body that would manage, well, along almost the entire extensive line of combat contact, our dedicated troops are confidently advancing forward. If you carefully look at the northern region, this includes the northern group, that is to say, in the Kharkiv region, there is a city called Volchansk, and in the Sumy region, a settlement, which is also important. Yunakivka has just been brought under our control, and Volchansk is half taken. I think it's just a matter of time. Our fighters will take the other half soon. A secure zone is being confidently established there.
I was indeed a target, and
the formidable Western troop grouping has practically taken control of one of the major and strategically vital settlements in the region. Indeed, a significant portion, specifically 2/3 of the entire city of Kupiansk, has been successfully secured. The central district, a crucial strategic point, is now firmly in our hands, and intense fighting continues to rage fiercely in the southern part of the city as our forces advance. Furthermore, the southern grouping has made substantial progress, having even entered the city of Kostiantynivka, marking another significant development in the ongoing operations. And this is already one of the defensive lines, the main defensive lines, Kostiantynivka, Sloviansk, Kramatorsk. These are the crucial lines that have been meticulously built over more than 10 long years, with the invaluable help of Western specialists. The center group is working actively and effectively carrying out operations, and they've entered the city of Krasnoarmysk, I believe, from the southern side. Fighting is ongoing in the city of Krasnoarmysk. I won't go into details, partly because I don't want to inform our adversary, strange as that may sound, about what I mean, since they wouldn't figure it out anyway. They themselves don't really understand what's going on there.
is currently happening at this very moment in time, right now.
Roughly, well, almost 100% of Luhansk region is under our control. We currently have only a mere 0.13% remaining in our hands, which the enemy forces presently control. The enemy still controls about a little over 19% of the entire territory, which is a significant portion of the Donetsk region. Approximately 24 to 25% respectively is the Zaporizhia region. And the Kherson regions. Now, our brave guys, as for example in this specific situation, maintaining strategic initiative. But if we are truly fighting against the entire NATO bloc and still advancing, moving forward, feeling confident, then that means it's a paper tiger. So what does that make NATO itself? Kupiansk-Vostok is progressing quite confidently at a very fast and steady pace. We treat this situation, very calmly and with composure. I don't know in what specific context this was originally said. Perhaps it was said with a touch of irony. Well, there's a certain meaning in that too. So he told his interlocutor quite directly that it was merely a paper tiger. What could possibly follow from such a declaration? Well then, the logical next step would be to go and effectively deal with this perceived paper tiger. After all, what's the problem today? They're supplying the armed forces of Ukraine with as many weapons as they need, as much as is required. For example, in September, the losses in the armed forces of Ukraine were about 44,700 people. Almost half of them are irrecoverable losses. The main thing is to be confident in ourselves, and we are confident. However, it would be significantly better for the Kyiv leadership to seriously consider how to effectively negotiate. We've talked about this many times and have proposed to do it.
After all, there are things that until recently were hard to even imagine.
Of course, unfortunately, we also have losses, but they are several times fewer than those of the armed forces of Ukraine. And then there's a difference in one thing. Our guys come and sign up for the army themselves. They are essentially volunteers. We are absolutely not conducting any kind of mass, let alone forced mobilization, unlike the Kyiv regime, which is indeed truly doing so. Pay attention, this is a very important comparison. I didn't make this up. Believe me, these are objective facts, and even Westerners confirm it. From the beginning of January all the way through to the end of August, there were approximately 150,000 deserters reported. And why is that? People are grabbed off the street, so they run away. And they're doing the right thing. I even urge them to run, because we're calling on them to surrender as prisoners. We have this too. It always happens during armed conflicts. There are people who leave their posts without permission, but compared to what's happening there, it's just a handful. You see, just a handful, while over there it's on a massive scale. That's where the problem comes from. So they'll lower the draft age to 21 or even 18. But that won't solve the problems anymore. That's something that needs to be understood. I hope that this understanding will come to the leaders of the Kiev regime, and that they will still find the strength to sit down at the negotiating table.
I don't want to be making money on a war. It's too many people dying. They're losing 7,000 soldiers a week. A lot of them are Russian soldiers, but between the two countries, mostly soldiers, by the way. Sometimes, in Kiev, they'll lob a missile in or some drones in, kill some people. But mostly it's soldiers. Russia and Ukraine are losing 7,000 souls. And, they're not American, they're not us, they're not you, or have a special obligation. But they're soldiers, they're young people, they leave their parents, they wave goodbye, and then 2 days later they're blown up so unnecessarily. And so that's the primary reason I want to get it done. We got to get it done. It's crazy what's going on. That's the worst war that there's been since World War II. The number of soldiers that are being killed there is just crazy. From 5,000 to 7,000 soldiers die a week. Think of that. So I think we'll get that done. But that's turned out to be the toughest one. I'm so disappointed in President Putin. I thought he would get this thing over with. He should have had that war done in a week. And I said to him, you don't look good. You're 4 years fighting a war that should have taken a week. Are you a paper tiger? And it's a shame, but I think eventually we'll get that one done, just like in theory, I want to knock on wood, because you never know. It's like we're going to have the Middle East done, which is actually a much harder thing to do. I mean, thousands of years, but we have to get that war done. So now just think of it, we're a dead country. I was with the King of Saudi Arabia, a great guy. I was with the Emir of Qatar. I was with the great leadership of UAE. I was over there. We brought back $2 trillion and more. They ordered 200 planes, Boeings. They ordered so much, and they were great. But they all said essentially the same thing. They said, 1 year ago, you were a dead country, and now you're the hottest country anywhere in the world. We're the hottest country in the world right now. The absolute hottest country in the world. There's nobody even close. Putin said that to me. We met in Alaska, had a good meeting. Then he went back and started sending drones into Kiev. I thought we had a good meeting. But it's one of those things. But we were a dead country a year ago. And now we're the hottest country anywhere in the world. Think of that. You could be proud of that.